The alarms screamed through Crimson Station like wounded animals. Red emergency lights painted the metal corridors in blood as explosions rocked the structure. Taeyang ran through the chaos, his heavy combat boots pounding against the floor. Behind him, the sounds of gunfire and dying screams echoed. "Move, move, move!" he shouted into his helmet comm. His squad followed close behind, their armor scratched and burned from 3 hours of non-stop fighting. The void swarm was everywhere. The insect-like aliens crawled through every breach, every broken door, every shattered window. They came in waves that never stopped, never slowed, never showed mercy. Taeyang's armor display showed him what he already knew. Red icons everywhere. His squad was down to 5 soldiers from the original 20. The station's defense grid was offline. The main reactor was failing. Civilian transports were still loading refugees in Docking Bay 7. They needed more time. "Sir, we can't hold them much longer," said Private Minho through the comm. His voice shook. He was young, barely 20 years old. This was his first real combat. "We hold as long as those transports need," Taeyang said. His voice was calm, steady. That was what leaders did. They stayed calm when everything went to hell. "Set up positions at Corridor Junction 12. We make our stand there." They reached the junction and took positions. Taeyang checked his rifle. Half power remaining. His armor's energy shield was at 30%. Not good, but it would have to be enough. Through his helmet display, he watched the blue dots of his squad members spread out across the junction. Good firing positions. They could hold here for a while. The clicking sounds came first. That horrible chittering noise the swarm made when they moved. Then the first creatures appeared around the corner. They looked like giant insects mixed with crabs, all sharp edges and black armor plating. Their eyes glowed green in the darkness. There were dozens of them. "Fire!" Taeyang pulled his trigger. Plasma bolts lit up the corridor. The other soldiers fired too. The first wave of swarm creatures fell, but more came behind them. Always more. The swarm never ran out of soldiers. They just kept coming until everything was dead or consumed. One of his soldiers screamed. Taeyang turned to see Private Jinwoo go down, 3 swarm creatures on top of him. Their razor-sharp limbs tore through his armor like paper. Taeyang fired, killing the creatures, but Jinwoo was already gone. His helmet display showed 4 blue dots now instead of 5. "Fall back to secondary position," Taeyang ordered. They moved back 20 meters, still firing. The swarm followed, flowing through the corridor like a dark river. Taeyang's shield flickered as plasma shots hit him. His armor was taking damage. Warning lights flashed inside his helmet. 2 more soldiers fell in the next 10 minutes. Then another. Taeyang found himself alone at the junction, his back against a wall, firing his rifle until it clicked empty. He dropped it and drew his combat blade. The swarm creatures surrounded him, circling like predators who knew their prey was finished. His helmet comm crackled. "Last transport away. All civilians evacuated. Station self-destruct in 10 minutes. Good. They had done their job. The civilians were safe. That was what mattered. Taeyang raised his blade as the swarm creatures rushed him. High above in the station's damaged upper levels, Nari watched through the darkness. Her eyes could see perfectly without light. That was one advantage of being Velrathi. Humans called her kind vampires, blood drinkers, monsters. Most species in the Galactic Coalition felt the same way. They used Velrathi as scouts and spies but never trusted them, never treated them as equals. She had been doing reconnaissance when the swarm attacked. Her orders were simple. Observe and report, do not engage. Velrathi were not supposed to fight alongside other coalition species. Too dangerous, they said. Too unpredictable. So Nari watched from the shadows while soldiers died. She watched this human now fighting alone against impossible odds. His armor was breaking apart. She could see the cracks spreading across his chest plate. His helmet was damaged, the faceplate cracked. But he kept fighting. He did not run. He did not surrender. He just fought, even when fighting was pointless. Something about that made her chest feel tight. This human did not know her. Did not know her people. Probably believed all the stories about Velrathi being monsters. But he was brave, honorable. He fought to save others, not himself. That deserved respect no matter what species he was. Taeyang's blade cut through another swarm creature. His armor shield was gone now. Direct hits were cracking the armor plating. He felt something break inside his chest. A rib, maybe 2. Blood filled his mouth. His left arm hung useless at his side. The creatures were too many. He had killed dozens, but dozens more remained. A heavy swarm warrior twice the size of the others pushed through the crowd. Its limbs were thick as metal pipes. It raised one massive claw and brought it down on Taeyang's helmet. The helmet shattered. Pieces of metal and plastic flew everywhere. Taeyang fell to his knees, blood running down his face. His vision blurred. The creature raised its claw again, aiming for Taeyang's exposed head. This was it, the end. Taeyang had no regrets. He had done his duty. Saved the civilians. Died fighting. That was enough, but the killing blow never came. Something dark and fast dropped from above. Wings spread wide, blocking out the red emergency lights. Nari landed between Taeyang and the swarm warrior. Her wings wrapped around the human's broken body like a shield. The swarm warrior's claw came down and hit her wing instead. She felt the membrane tear, felt her own blood start to flow. The pain was terrible, but she did not move. "Stay down, human," she said in accented but clear human language. "I will handle this." Taeyang looked up at her through blood and broken armor. A Velrathi, one of the vampires, protecting him. Her wings covered him completely, shielding him from the swarm. He could see the damage they were taking. The creatures were tearing into her, but she did not move. She kept herself between him and death. Why would she do this? Why would she sacrifice herself for a human she did not know? Nari showed her teeth and screamed a challenge at the swarm. It was time to show these creatures what a Velrathi warrior could really do. Nari's claws extended, each one sharp as a blade. The swarm warrior in front of her was massive, armored, dangerous. It did not matter. She had spent her whole life being told she was too dangerous to fight. Too savage. Too much like a monster. Now she would show them exactly what kind of monster she could be. She moved faster than human eyes could follow. Her claws found the gaps in the swarm warrior's armor, the weak points between its plating. Black blood sprayed across the corridor. The creature screamed, a sound like metal tearing. Nari did not stop. She struck again and again, each movement precise and deadly. Behind her, Taeyang tried to stand. His legs would not obey. His armor was too damaged. He could only watch as this Velrathi woman fought the entire swarm alone. She moved like water, flowing between attacks, her wings sweeping creatures aside. When they tore at her wings, she ignored the pain and kept fighting. The swarm warrior fell, its head separated from its body. Nari did not pause to celebrate. More creatures rushed at her. She met them head-on. Her species was stronger than humans, faster than most coalition races. In close combat, few things in the galaxy could match a Velrathi. The coalition knew this. That was why they feared her people. Taeyang watched her fight and understood something important. The stories about Velrathi were wrong. They were not monsters. They were warriors. Honorable warriors who had been pushed aside and feared because others did not understand them. This woman was proving that with every creature she killed, but there were too many. Even she could not fight forever. A swarm creature got past her guard and raked its claws across her back. She cried out in pain but kept moving. Another hit her leg. Another tore a chunk from her wing. She was bleeding from a dozen wounds now, her movement slower. Taeyang looked down at his belt. His sidearm was still there. He pulled it free with his working hand. The power indicator showed red. One charge pack left, maybe 20 shots. Not much, but better than nothing. Here, he shouted, his voice rough. He tossed the charge pack toward Nari. She caught it without looking, her reflexes incredible. For a moment, their eyes met. Her eyes were violet, strange but beautiful. She gave him a small nod, then loaded the charge pack into her own weapon. Coalition operatives all carried compatible gear. Now she had both claws and a gun. The fight changed. Nari shot the creatures at range and slashed the ones that got close. Taeyang used his blade from the ground, cutting at any creature that got near him. They fought together without planning, without training, but somehow it worked. Human and Velrathi, steel and flesh, fighting as one. "Why are you doing this?" Taeyang asked during a brief pause in the attack. "You do not know me. You could have run." Nari killed another swarm creature before answering. "You fought alone to save others. That is honorable. Honor deserves honor." She paused, then added quietly, "And I am tired of hiding in shadows while brave people die." More creatures came. They did not stop coming. Nari's wounds were serious now. Her left wing hung at a wrong angle, clearly broken. Blood covered her pale skin. She was slowing down. Even her incredible strength had limits. Taeyang tried again to stand. This time he made it to his feet, though every movement sent pain shooting through his body. His chest plate was completely shattered now. He could see his own blood soaking through his uniform underneath. His left arm was definitely broken, but he could still hold a blade in his right hand. "Can you fly?" he asked Nari. She looked at her wings and laughed bitterly. "Not anymore. They are too damaged." "Then we stand together," Taeyang said. He moved beside her, blade ready. "If we die fighting." "You humans," Nari said, and despite everything she smiled. "So stubborn, so stupid, so brave." She raised her claws. "Very well. We stand together." The next wave hit them like a tsunami. Swarm creatures poured into the corridor from every direction. Taeyang and Nari stood back to back, fighting in perfect coordination. When he was too slow, she covered him. When she was overwhelmed, he stepped in. They moved like they had trained together for years, not minutes. Taeyang's blade broke against a swarm warrior's armor. He grabbed a piece of broken metal from the floor and kept fighting. His vision was going dark around the edges. He had lost too much blood. His body was shutting down. But he stayed on his feet. Humans were good at one thing above all others: refusing to quit. Nari's gun clicked empty. She threw it at a creature's head and went back to using just her claws. Her movements were mechanical now, running on instinct and willpower alone. Her wings dragged on the ground, useless. Every breath hurt. But she did not stop. She would not let this human die alone. He had earned better than that. "Station self-destruct in 2 minutes." A computer voice announced calmly. Taeyang laughed. The sound came out as a cough, blood on his lips. "At least we do not have to fight much longer." "That is one way to look at it," Nari said. "She killed another creature. I am Nari, by the way. If we die together, you should know my name." "Taeyang," he said. He stabbed his makeshift weapon through a creature's eye. "It is good to meet you, Nari." "Good to meet you too, Taeyang." They fought on. Seconds turned into an eternity. The swarm never stopped. Taeyang fell to one knee, then both. Nari stood over him, her wings spread wide despite the damage, still trying to protect him. She swayed on her feet, barely conscious. This was the end. They both knew it. But they had fought well. Died with honor. That was enough. Then, impossibly, light flooded the corridor. Bright white light that made the swarm creatures screech and pull back. A ship's spotlight. Taeyang heard the beautiful sound of rescue team comm chatter, human voices shouting orders. "We have survivors. Medical team now. Clear the area. These people need emergency extraction." Strong hands lifted Taeyang. He saw other soldiers lifting Nari, being careful with her damaged wings. The rescue team fired at the swarm, driving them back. A medical officer pressed something against Taeyang's neck. Medicine flooded his system, keeping him conscious. "You are going to make it, soldier," the medic said. "Both of you. That was the bravest thing I have ever seen." Taeyang looked over at Nari. They were carrying her toward the rescue ship. Her violet eyes found his. Even exhausted and bleeding, she smiled at him. He smiled back. They had survived. Together, human and Velrathi had survived the impossible. As consciousness finally left him, Taeyang's last thought was simple. Maybe the galaxy needed to learn something new about what was possible when different people worked together. Taeyang woke up to white ceiling tiles and the steady beep of medical equipment. His body felt strange, heavy in some places and numb in others. He tried to move and immediately regretted it. Pain shot through his chest like lightning. "Easy, soldier," a voice said. A medical officer appeared in his vision, checking the monitors beside his bed. "You have been unconscious for 3 days. Your body has been through hell. We had to replace 2 ribs with cybernetic implants and repair severe damage to your left arm. You will live, but recovery will take time." 3 days. Taeyang's memory came back in pieces. The station, the swarm fighting until his armor broke, and then Nari, the Velrathi woman who saved him. "Where is she?" Taeyang asked. His voice came out rough, barely a whisper. "Where is who?" the medical officer asked. "The Velrathi, Nari, the one who fought with me." Taeyang tried to sit up. The officer pushed him back down gently but firmly. "The Velrathi survivor is in a different medical bay. She's alive, but her injuries were severe. Her wings may never heal properly." The officer's face was neutral, professional. "You should focus on your own recovery." "I want to see her," Taeyang said. "That is not possible right now. You need rest." "I want to see her," Taeyang repeated, putting steel in his voice despite the weakness in his body. "She saved my life." "I need to thank her," the medical officer sighed. "I will ask my superior, but I cannot promise anything. There are Protocols about Velrathi patients. The officer left. Taeyang lay back and stared at the ceiling. Protocols. That meant discrimination. The Velrathi were kept separate from other species, even in medical bays. Treated like they were dangerous even when they were injured and helpless. It made him angry. 2 days passed before Taeyang could stand on his own. The cybernetic ribs felt strange in his chest, metal where bone should be. His left arm was covered in bandages and healing gel. The doctors said he was lucky to be alive. He did not feel lucky. He felt frustrated. Every time he asked to see Nari, he got the same answer. Not possible. Protocols, regulations, excuses. Finally, on the 3rd day of being awake, Taeyang decided he was done asking. He waited until the night shift when fewer medical staff were around and walked out of his recovery room. His body protested every step. Pain medicine could only do so much, but Taeyang had been through worse. He had been a soldier for 10 years. He knew how to push through pain. He found a terminal and looked up Velrathi medical bay locations. There was only one on this ship. Isolation Ward, Deck 7. The walk took 20 minutes. Every step was agony, but Taeyang kept moving. He reached the isolation ward and found 2 guards at the door. They were human, which made what he had to do a bit easier. "I need to see the Velrathi patient," Taeyang said. "Sorry, sir, but that is not allowed," one guard said. He was young, probably new to this assignment. Velrathi patients are kept isolated for safety reasons. "Safety reasons," Taeyang repeated. He reached up and pulled his shirt open, showing the bandages across his chest. Under the bandages, visible through the clear healing gel, were deep scars. Wing-shaped scars where Nari had covered him with her body. "You see these? These are from her wings. She used her own body as a shield to protect me from the swarm. She almost died, saving my life. Now explain to me exactly what safety reasons prevent me from thanking her." The guards looked at each other. The younger one shifted uncomfortably. The older guard, a woman with sergeant stripes, studied Taeyang's face for a long moment. "Go ahead," she said finally. "But if anyone asks, we did not see you." "Thank you, Sergeant." The isolation ward was cold and dark. Only one bed was occupied. Nari lay there, her pale skin even paler than before. Her wings were spread out on special supports covered in bandages and healing equipment. Medical monitors beeped softly. She looked small, fragile. Nothing like the warrior who had fought beside him. Taeyang pulled a chair close to her bed and sat down carefully. His ribs protested the movement. He waited, watching her breathe. After a few minutes, her eyes opened. Those violet eyes focused on him. "Taeyang," she said. Her voice was weak, but she smiled. "You look terrible." He laughed, then winced at the pain it caused. "You do not look much better." "I suppose not." She tried to sit up but could not manage it. Taeyang gently helped her, adjusting the bed controls. She looked at her wings stretched out on the supports. "They tell me I may never fly again. The damage is too severe. For a Velrathi, losing flight is like losing part of your soul." "I am sorry," Taeyang said. He did not know what else to say. What words could make that better? "Do not be," Nari said. "I made my choice. I would make it again." She looked at him. "Why did you come here? Humans usually avoid my kind. You saved my life. That deserves more than avoiding you." Taeyang leaned forward. "Why did you do it? You did not know me. You had orders not to engage. You could have escaped easily." Nari was quiet for a moment. "My people have been treated as monsters for so long. Feared, avoided, used when convenient, but never trusted. I have watched it my whole life, and I was tired of it." She looked at her clawed hands. "You fought alone to save people you did not know. You never gave up, even when giving up made sense. That is not the action of someone who deserves to die alone. And I thought, maybe if I helped you it would prove something, that my kind can be more than what others believe." "You proved it," Taeyang said. "You are the bravest warrior I have ever fought beside." "I am not a warrior," Nari said bitterly. "The Coalition does not allow Velrathi in combat roles. We are scouts, spies, observers. Never soldiers. Never equals." "Then the Coalition is stupid," Taeyang said bluntly. "I have been a soldier for 10 years. I have fought beside dozens of different species. None of them were better warriors than you." Nari looked at him with surprise. Then her eyes filled with tears. She tried to hide them, but Taeyang saw. He realized those might be the first words of respect anyone had given her in a long time. They talked for an hour. Nari told him about growing up Velrathi, always being treated as dangerous, always having to prove she was not a monster. Taiyang told her about being human, about Earth, about why he became a soldier. They found they had more in common than either expected. Both had lost family to the swarm. Both believed in protecting others even at personal cost. Both were tired of the galaxy's endless prejudices. "They are going to use us, you know," Nari said quietly. "Our story. A human and a Velrathi fighting together, saving each other. The coalition will want to turn it into propaganda." "Let them," Taiyang said. "If it helps your people be treated better, is that not worth it?" "Maybe," Nari said. She did not sound convinced. A medical officer came in then, looking angry. "Sergeant Taiyang, you should not be here. Return to your room immediately." Taiyang stood slowly, using the chair for support. He looked at Nari one more time. "I will come back. If they try to stop me, I will find another way. You are not alone in this." Nari smiled, real warmth in her expression. "Thank you, Taiyang, for everything." As he walked out, escorted by the annoyed medical officer, Taiyang made a decision. Whatever came next, whatever the coalition wanted to do with their story, he would make sure Nari and her people got the respect they deserved. She had saved his life. Now he would fight for hers in whatever way he could. It was what humans did best. They were stubborn about protecting the people they cared about. And somehow, in just a few days, Nari had become someone he cared about very much. The Coalition Command wanted a ceremony. Of course they did. Taiyang stood in his dress uniform, uncomfortable despite the perfect fit. The cybernetic ribs in his chest ached. He had been released from medical care only 3 days ago, still technically recovering. But Command had decided the ceremony could not wait. Beside him stood Nari. She wore something between a uniform and a formal dress, specially designed for Velrathi physiology. Her wings were still bandaged, but she could fold them now, though the movement clearly caused her pain. She looked beautiful and uncomfortable in equal measure. "I hate this," she whispered to him as they waited backstage. Beyond the curtain, they could hear the crowd gathering. Reporters, military officials, politicians from a dozen different coalition worlds, all here to see the human and the Velrathi who fought together. "I know," Taiyang whispered back, "but we agreed to do this. If it helps your people, it is worth it." "If it helps," Nari said. She did not sound hopeful. The ceremony was exactly as awful as Taiyang expected. A coalition admiral gave a long speech about unity and cooperation. How Taiyang and Nari represented the best of what different species could achieve together. How their courage inspired the entire coalition. It was all true, but somehow the way he said it made it feel empty, like words without meaning. Then they were called on stage. Cameras flashed. The crowd applauded. The admiral pinned medals on both their chests. The Medal of Valor, one of the coalition's highest honors. Taiyang felt the weight of it, and wondered what all the soldiers who died on Crimson Station would think. Were they less brave because no one survived to tell their stories? After the ceremony came the interviews. Reporter after reporter asking the same questions over and over. How did it feel to fight together? What made you protect each other? Do you think this will change how humans and Velrathi see each other? Taiyang tried to give good answers. He talked about Nari's courage, her skill, her sacrifice. He made sure to say that she was the one who saved him, not the other way around. The reporters seemed disappointed by that. They wanted a story of a human saving the vampire, not the vampire saving the human. Nari spoke less. When she did talk, her words were careful, measured. She thanked the coalition for the honor. She said she hoped other Velrathi would get the same opportunities to serve. The reporters barely listened to her answers, more interested in getting footage of her wings and claws for their broadcasts. The worst part came during a live broadcast interview. The host, a politician from one of the core worlds, smiled at them with too many teeth. "So tell us, Nari," the host said. "There are rumors that you fed on Sergeant Taiyang during the battle. Can you confirm or deny this?" The room went silent. Taiyang felt rage build in his chest. Before Nari could answer, he leaned forward. "That is a disgusting lie," he said, his voice hard. "Nari saved my life using her wings as a shield. She nearly died protecting me. Anyone who suggests otherwise is either a liar or a fool." The host's smile did not waver. "Of course, Sergeant. But you must understand, people are curious. The Velrathi dietary needs are well documented. It is natural to wonder." "Wonder something else," Taiyang interrupted. "Nari is a warrior and a hero. That is all anyone needs to know." The interview ended shortly after, As they left the studio, Nari put a hand on his arm. "Thank you for defending me," she said. "But you did not need to. I am used to such questions." "You should not have to be used to them," Taeyang said. "It is wrong." Over the next week, they did more appearances. More ceremonies, more interviews, more photo opportunities. The coalition was milking their story for everything it was worth. Posters appeared showing them standing side by side, with slogans about unity and cooperation. Recruitment numbers went up. The propaganda machine was working exactly as Command wanted, but not everyone was happy about it. Protests started on several coalition worlds. Anti-Velrathi groups held rallies claiming the story was false, that Velrathi could not be trusted. Some human nationalist groups even denounced Taeyang as a traitor for fraternizing with blood drinkers. Death threats arrived by the dozen. Taeyang read them all. They did not frighten him. He had faced the swarm. Angry messages from cowards hiding behind anonymous accounts meant nothing. But they made him angry. These people wanted to tear down Nari for the crime of being different, of being Velrathi. One night, unable to sleep, he went to find Nari. She had quarters near his on the military ship they were stationed on. He found her on an observation deck looking out at the stars. "Cannot sleep either?" he asked. "My kind does not need much sleep," Nari said. She did not look at him, still watching the stars. "Besides, I have been reading the news. The protests. The threats. The coalition is getting what it wanted, attention and recruitment. But nothing is actually changing for my people." "What do you mean?" "Look at this." Nari pulled up a data pad and showed him. Lists of Velrathi operatives, their assignments, their casualty rates. While Command parades us around as examples of unity, they are still sending Velrathi scouts on suicide missions. Dangerous reconnaissance into swarm territory with no support and no extraction plans. The casualty rate is over 60%. They use us as expendable tools, then act shocked when we die. Taeyang looked at the numbers and felt sick. She was right. Nothing had changed. The propaganda was just a show covering the same old prejudices. "We need to expose this," he said. "Expose what? That the coalition uses the species it fears?" Nari laughed bitterly. "Everyone already knows. They just do not care. Then we make them care. How? We are soldiers. They own us. We follow orders or face court-martial." Taeyang thought about that. She was right again. They were trapped in the system, being used by it. But humans were good at one thing, finding ways to break systems that were broken. "Then maybe we stop following orders," he said quietly. Nari looked at him in surprise. "You would risk your career? Your freedom? For my people? You risked your life for me, a human you did not know," Taeyang said. "You think I would do less for you?" Over the next few days, they made a plan. They could not just speak out. Command would silence them immediately. But they could act. They could show the galaxy what real cooperation looked like, not the fake propaganda version. They started small. Taeyang requested transfer to scout operations, specifically asking to work with Velrathi teams. Command approved, thinking it would make good publicity. What they did not expect was Taeyang actually training with the Velrathi, learning their techniques, proving that humans and Velrathi could work together in the field. Nari, despite her injured wings, volunteered to train human soldiers in close combat. Command was hesitant but allowed it again for publicity reasons. But Nari used the opportunity to show human soldiers that Velrathi were not monsters, that they were warriors who could teach valuable skills. Other soldiers started requesting similar assignments, some because they believed in the cause, others because working with Velrathi scouts actually improved survival rates. The numbers did not lie. Mixed teams performed better than segregated ones, but Command noticed. And Command did not like losing control of the narrative they had created. Taeyang and Nari were called to a meeting with a coalition general. The general's face was hard, angry. "You two are becoming a problem," the general said. "We gave you medals, made you heroes. Now you are supposed to do your jobs and let us handle policy." "We are doing our jobs," Taeyang said. "We are fighting the swarm and training others to fight better." "You are pushing an agenda," the general said. "Integration of Velrathi into combat roles was not part of the plan. They are scouts and intelligence operatives. That is their role." "Why?" Nari asked. "Because you are afraid of what we can do? Because it is easier to let us die in darkness than to admit we could be equals." The general's expression went cold. "Watch your tone, operative. You are speaking to a superior officer. Then act like one, Taeyang said. Sir, stop sending Velrathi scouts to die unnecessarily. Let them serve as real soldiers. They have earned it. This meeting is over, the general said. You will both receive new assignments. Separate assignments, and you will stop causing problems or medals will not save you from court-martial. Dismissed. As they left the office, Nari looked at Taeyang. We are in trouble now. Probably, Taeyang agreed. But we knew this would happen. The question is, what do we do next? I have an idea, Nari said slowly. But you will definitely not like it. Tell me anyway. We go rogue. Stop being part of their propaganda machine. Actually fight for change instead of just talking about it. Taeyang thought about his career, his future in the military, his duty to follow orders. Then he thought about all the Velrathi dying on suicide missions while command played politics. He thought about Nari's broken wings and how she got them saving someone who should have been a stranger. You are right, he said. I do not like it. But let us do it anyway. Nari smiled, showing her sharp teeth. Humans really are stubborn. That is what I like about you. Stealing a coalition military ship was easier than Taeyang expected. Security focused on external threats, not on decorated heroes who supposedly followed orders. 2 weeks after their meeting with the general, he and Nari walked onto a small combat vessel during a shift change. The ship was scheduled for maintenance, which meant a skeleton crew and minimal oversight. They were not alone. A human pilot named Doyen met them in the cargo bay. He was older than Taeyang, maybe 40, with tired eyes and the kind of face that had seen too much combat. He had contacted them 3 days ago after hearing about their situation through the military gossip network. You are really doing this? Doyen asked. Going rogue to help Velrathi scouts. You know command will hunt you down. Yes, Taeyang said simply. Are you still in? I lost my whole squad because command sent us bad intelligence from a Velrathi scout who died before reporting back, Doyen said. Those scouts die because no one cares enough to give them proper support. So yeah, I am in. Someone needs to do something. A Velrathi medic named Hana joined them next. She was younger than Nari, her wings a lighter shade of gray. She had been working in the isolation wards, treating injured Velrathi scouts who came back broken from impossible missions. I am tired of just healing wounds and watching my people die, Hana said. If you can really change things, I want to help. The last member of their crew was an engineer from a species called the Torvan. His name was unpronounceable to humans, so he told them to call him Garam. He was small, roughly shaped like a bear but covered in blue scales. His species was neutral in most coalition politics, which made him perfect for what they needed. I fix ships, not politics, Garam said in his rumbling voice. But I have seen how command treats Velrathi. It is wrong. I fix wrong things when I can. 5 people total. It was not much of a crew, but it would have to be enough. They waited until the maintenance shift ended. Then Doyen powered up the ship. Alarms immediately started going off. Security would respond in minutes. Everyone strap in, Doyen said calmly. This will be bumpy, he was not exaggerating. The ship lurched away from the dock before the clamps were fully released. Metal screamed. Warning lights flashed everywhere. Doyen's hands moved across the controls like he was born doing this, which he probably was. They cleared the station just as security ships started launching to pursue them. They are ordering us to stop and return, Hana said from the communication station. Tell them no, Taeyang said. I do not think it works that way. Then do not tell them anything. We are past the point of explaining ourselves. Doyen pushed the ship into a dangerous acceleration. The inertial dampeners struggled to keep up. Taeyang felt his cybernetic ribs creak under the pressure. Beside him, Nari gripped her seat, her wings folded tight against her back. Security ships are closing, Garam reported from the engineering station. We cannot outrun them in this ship. We do not need to outrun them, Doyen said. Just need to reach the jump point before they can lock weapons. He looked back at Taeyang. Where are we going anyway? Sector 17, Taeyang said. There is a Velrathi scout team that missed their last 3 check-ins. Command wrote them off as casualties. We are going to find them. Sector 17 is deep in contested space, Doyen said. Heavy swarm activity. That is a good way to die. That is why we need to go there, Nari said. If those scouts are alive, they have been abandoned. No one else will help them, Doyen grinned. I like your style. Crazy, but I like it. They reached the jump point with security ships only seconds behind. Jun activated the jump drive and reality twisted around them. The ship lurched through hyperspace, leaving their pursuers behind. When they emerged 3 hours later, they were in a different part of the galaxy entirely. "Now we are officially criminals," Garam said. He did not sound upset about it. "Now we can actually do some good," Taeyang corrected. Sector 17 was as dangerous as advertised. Swarm patrol ships drifted through the area, hunting for targets. Doyen navigated carefully, using every trick he knew to avoid detection. It took them 6 hours to reach the last known coordinates of the missing Velrathi scout team. They found wreckage first. Pieces of a small Velrathi scout ship drifting in space, but no bodies, which was good. It meant the scouts might have made it to a planet or station. "There is a mining station nearby," Hana said, checking her sensors. "Abandoned for 3 years after the swarm pushed through this sector. If I was a stranded scout, that is where I would go." The mining station was a mess. Half of it was destroyed, the other half barely functional, but there were life signs. Weak ones, but definitely there. Taeyang, Nari, and Doyun took weapons and headed to the airlock. "Be careful," Garam said. "If there are swarm in there, this could be a trap." "Only one way to find out," Taeyang said. The interior of the station was dark and cold. Their suit lights cut through the darkness, showing walls covered in old battle damage. They moved carefully, weapons ready. Taeyang's military training kicked in automatically. He took point. Nari covered the flanks, Doyun watched their backs. They found the scouts in what used to be the station's cafeteria. 3 Velrathi, all injured, all barely alive. They had fortified the room as best they could with broken furniture and sealed doors. When they saw Nari enter, they relaxed slightly but kept their weapons raised. "Who are you?" one of them asked, his voice weak. "Coalition Rescue does not send Velrathi medics." "We are not Coalition Rescue," Nari said. She moved forward slowly, hands visible. "We are something different. We came to get you out of here." "Why would you do that?" "Command abandoned us weeks ago." "Because Command is wrong," Taeyang said, stepping forward. "And because leaving soldiers behind is not something we are willing to accept." The scouts looked at him surprised. A human risking his life for Velrathi he did not know. It did not make sense to them. But Nari vouched for him, and that was enough. They let Hana treat their injuries while Taeyang and Doyun secured the area. Getting everyone back to the ship was difficult. The scouts could barely walk. One had lost a wing completely, torn off in whatever fight had stranded them here. But they made it, moving slowly through the dark station back to their ship. As they left the station, swarm ships appeared on sensors. A patrol heading right toward them. "We need to run," Doyen said. "We cannot fight them," Taeyang asked. "Not in this ship with injured crew and low ammunition. Running is our only option." Doyen proved why he was a good pilot. He flew through asteroid fields and debris zones, using every obstacle to break line of sight with the pursuing swarm ships. It took 2 hours of tense flying, but eventually they lost their pursuers. The rescued scouts sat in the cargo bay, being treated by Hana. They looked at their rescuers with something like wonder. "Why did you really come for us?" one of them asked. "You could have died. For scouts nobody cares about. That is exactly why we came," Nari said. "Because nobody should be left to die just because others do not care. And because we are trying to prove something, that Velrathi lives matter. That cross-species cooperation is not just propaganda. It is real and it works." "Command will hunt you for this," another scout said, stealing a ship going rogue. "You are criminals now." "Maybe," Taeyang said. "But we are criminals who got you out alive. That is worth the price." Over the next few weeks, they conducted more rescues. Each time, they found abandoned Velrathi scouts that Command had written off as casualties. Each time, they brought them back alive. Word started spreading through the Velrathi community. There was a rogue crew out there, human and Velrathi working together, actually rescuing people instead of just talking about unity. Other people wanted to join them. More ships, more crews, all inspired by what they were doing. Taeyang and Nari found themselves leading a small fleet of rogues and idealists, all working to prove that the Coalition's policies were wrong. Command issued warrants for their arrest, called them traitors and deserters, but the footage of their rescues, sent anonymously to news networks across Coalition space, told a different story. Public opinion started shifting. Not everywhere, not completely, but enough to matter. "We are actually making a difference," Nari said one night as they reviewed reports. "People are paying attention now." "Command is paying attention too," Taeyang said. "They will not let this continue." Eventually they will send someone to stop us. Then we fight, Nari said simply. We have come too far to stop now. Taeyang looked at her and smiled. You know, when I woke up to find a Velrathi saving my life, I never imagined it would lead to this. Imagined what? Becoming a criminal and fighting the entire coalition military? No, finding a purpose worth fighting for. And someone worth fighting beside. Nari's violet eyes softened. I never imagined it either. But I am glad it happened. Even if we fail, at least we tried. That is more than most people can say. We will not fail, Taeyang said with the stubborn confidence that made him human. We are too stubborn to fail. Nari laughed. It was a good sound. Despite everything, despite being hunted criminals, despite the impossible odds, they both felt something like hope. They were making the galaxy better, one rescue at a time, and they were doing it together. 3 months after going rogue, Taeyang's small fleet had grown to 12 ships. Not all of them were military vessels. Some were civilian transports, others were converted cargo haulers. What they all had in common was crews who believed in the cause. Humans, Velrathi, and other species working together to prove the coalition was wrong. Their base of operations was a hidden asteroid station in unclaimed space. Once a smuggler haven, now it served as a sanctuary for rescued scouts and a planning center for operations. The station's cantina had become an unlikely meeting place where species that normally avoided each other now shared meals and stories. Taeyang stood at the cantina's window, looking out at the ships docked outside. Nari joined him, 2 cups of hot liquid in her hands. She passed one to him. It was not coffee, not quite, but close enough. Doyun says we have another request, Nari said. A mixed colony on the frontier. Heavy swarm activity in the area. The coalition evacuated their military assets but left the civilians behind. About 5,000 people, mostly Velrathi and human families. How long do they have? Taeyang asked. Maybe a week before the swarm reaches them. Maybe less. Taeyang drank from his cup thinking. 5,000 people. That was more than they had ever tried to evacuate. It would take all 12 ships, perfect coordination, and a lot of luck. We have to try, he said finally. I knew you would say that, Nari said with a small smile. Doyen is already planning the operation. He wants to leave in 6 hours. They assembled the fleet commanders in the station's briefing room. 12 captains, some human, some Velrathi, some other species. All of them criminals by coalition law. All of them here because they believed in something bigger than themselves. Doyen displayed a map of the colony world. The settlement is here, in a valley between 2 mountain ranges. Natural defenses, but also only 2 ways in or out. If the swarm boxes them in, they are trapped. What about coalition support? Asked Captain Bora, a human woman who commanded one of their cargo ships. There is none, Doyen said flatly. Command classified the colony as unsustainable and pulled out 3 days ago. Left the civilians with a week's warning and no transport. Angry muttering filled the room. This was why they did what they did. The coalition claimed to protect everyone but abandoned people when it became inconvenient. We will need to move fast, Taeyang said. In and out before the swarm realizes what is happening. Combat ships provide cover while transports load civilians. How long to evacuate 5,000 people? If we push it? 8 hours minimum, Captain Minho said. He was Velrathi, his wings bearing scars from old battles. But that assumes no complications. If the swarm hits us during evacuation, it could take much longer. Then we make sure the swarm does not hit us, Nari said. She moved to the map display, her clawed fingers tracing routes, scout teams here and here, early warning positions. Combat ships form a defensive perimeter. At the first sign of swarm, the scouts pull back and we collapse the perimeter around the transports. It was a good plan, as good as they could manage with limited resources. The captains discussed details for another hour, then dispersed to their ships. Taeyang and Nari stayed behind, double-checking everything they could think of. This is the biggest operation we have tried, Nari said quietly. If it goes wrong, we could lose everything. If we do nothing, 5,000 people die, Taeyang replied. That is not acceptable. Very human of you, Nari said. Never accepting the unacceptable. Is that a complaint?
No, it is one of the things I admire about your species.
You refuse to accept that some problems are too big to solve. The fleet departed 6 hours later, jumping through hyperspace to the colony world. They emerged in system and immediately deployed into their planned formation. The combat ships formed a wide perimeter while the transports descended toward the colony. The colonists were waiting, their belongings packed, children held close. They looked at the arriving ships with hope and disbelief. Many of them had given up on rescue. Taeyang went down with the first transport. He wanted to coordinate the evacuation personally, make sure nobody got left behind. The colony's mayor, a Velrathi elder named Somin, met him at the landing pad. "You are the rogue fleet," Somin said. It was not a question. "I have heard stories. I did not believe them until now. We are here to get you out," Taeyang said. "All of you. But we need to move fast. Swarm activity in this system is increasing." "We are ready," Somin said. "We have been ready since the coalition abandoned us." The evacuation began. It was organized chaos. Families boarding transports, luggage being loaded, children crying. Taeyang's team moved through the crowd, making sure everyone got on a ship, helping the elderly and injured. Nari coordinated from above. Her wings healed enough now that she could fly short distances. 4 hours into the evacuation, the scouts reported swarm movement. A hive ship had entered the system, still distant but heading their way. "How long until it reaches us?" Taeyang asked over the comm. 5 hours at current speed," a scout replied. "But it is launching smaller ships. Those could be here in 2 hours. Everyone double time," Taeyang ordered. "We need to be gone in 90 minutes, the pace increased." People ran instead of walked. Cargo was left behind if it slowed things down. The transports filled up one after another, then launched to orbit. 3 hours in, they had evacuated 3,000 people. 2,000 remained. Then the swarm patrol ships arrived. "Contact." Doyen's voice came over the fleet comm. 6 swarm fighters inbound. Combat ships engage and destroy. The battle began in orbit above them. Taeyang could see the flashes of weapons fire in the sky. Their combat ships were outnumbered but better trained. The swarm ships were fast and deadly but predictable. One by one they were destroyed, but more were coming. Many more. "We have a problem," Doyen reported. "Multiple swarm groups converging on our position. We have maybe 30 minutes before we are overwhelmed." Taeyang looked at the remaining colonists. Still over 1,000 people waiting to board. They would never make it in 30 minutes. "Not all of them. Load children and elderly first," he ordered. "Everyone else stays behind until they are safe." "Taeyang, no." Nari's voice came through his personal comm. "If you stay, you die." "We all die. Then you leave without us," Taeyang said. "Get the transports to safety. The combat ships can hold here and buy time for the rest to evacuate. That is suicide. That is the job. Protecting people, even when it is dangerous. Especially when it is dangerous." There was silence on the comm. Then Nari's voice, hard and determined. "I am coming down there. Nari, do not, too late." He saw her wings folding as she dropped from orbit, diving at terminal velocity. She hit the ground near him, landing hard enough to crack the pavement. Her wings spread wide, and despite the situation, Taeyang thought she looked magnificent. "If you are staying, I am staying," she said. "We started this together. We do not stop now." Other voices came through the comm. Doyen, Hana, Captain Bora, Captain Minho. One by one, the crews volunteered to stay and fight, to protect the evacuation until every last person was safe. Taeyang felt something warm in his chest. Pride, maybe, or hope. These people, from different species and different worlds, all choosing to risk everything for strangers. This was what the coalition should have been. This was what they were fighting for. "All right," he said. "Combat ships form up for defensive action. Transports maintain evacuation. We hold this position until everyone is safe." The swarm arrived like a dark tide. Hundreds of small fighters, dozens of larger ships. The sky turned black with them. Taeyang's small fleet fought with everything they had. Ships danced through the air, weapons blazing. Every destroyed swarm ship was replaced by 2 more. On the ground, Taeyang and Nari led the defense. Swarm creatures that landed were met with precise fire and brutal close combat. Nari moved like death itself, her claws and wings cutting through enemies. Taeyang fought beside her, his rifle never stopping, his cybernetic ribs allowing him to move in ways that would cripple a normal human. The last transport loaded, children and elderly safe, heading to orbit. But there were still hundreds of people on the ground. Adults who had stayed behind, fighters who volunteered to help defend. And the swarm was everywhere now. "Last transport away," Doyen reported. "Everyone else prepare for emergency extraction. This is going to be very close." Combat ships dropped from orbit, landing directly in the colony. It was dangerous, possibly suicidal, but it was the only way to get everyone out. People ran for the ships while Taeyang, Nari, and the other fighters held the perimeter. "Go!" Taeyang shouted at the civilians.
Get on the ships, move!
A massive swarm warrior crashed through a building, heading straight for a group of children being led to a ship. Taeyang ran to intercept, his rifle firing until it overheated. The creature barely slowed. It raised a massive claw to strike the children. Nari hit it from the side, her wings carrying her at incredible speed. She slammed into the creature with enough force to knock it sideways away from the children. It recovered quickly, turning its attention to her. She did not retreat. She stood her ground and fought, giving the children time to reach safety. Taeyang joined her, and together they brought the creature down. Around them, others did the same. Humans and Velrathi fighting side by side, protecting people they did not know, risking everything because it was right. Everyone aboard! Doyen's voice crackled through. The call came 6 months after they went rogue, a desperate plea from a refugee world called Haven. The planet housed 3 million civilians, including the largest population of Velrathi outside their home world. And the swarm was coming. Taeyang listened to the transmission in the command center of their hidden base. The voice belonged to a human administrator named Yunji. Her words rushed and frightened. The swarm has launched a major offensive. Hive ships, thousands of them. The coalition fleet is 3 days away. We have maybe 12 hours before the swarm reaches us. Millions will die. If anyone can hear this, please help us. The transmission ended. Silence filled the command center. Everyone looked at Taeyang and Nari. Their fleet had grown to 30 ships now, but 30 ships against a swarm offensive was nothing. It was suicide. We have to try, Taeyang said. Not because he thought they could win, but because 3 million people deserved someone trying to save them. We cannot fight a full swarm offensive, Doyen said carefully. Our ships are not equipped for that kind of battle. We will be destroyed. Probably, Taeyang agreed, but we can buy time. Hold them off until the coalition fleet arrives. 3 days is a long time, but 12 hours? We can do 12 hours, can we? Nari asked. Not challenging him, just genuinely asking. Can we really hold against those numbers? I do not know, Taeyang admitted. But I know we have to try. Because if we do not, who will? We started this movement to prove that different species working together can achieve the impossible. Now is our chance to prove it when it really matters. The fleet commanders gathered, 30 captains from dozens of different species, all looking at the odds and knowing they were terrible. But not one of them suggested running. They had all joined this movement because they believed in something. Now was the time to stand behind that belief. We will need help, Captain Bora said. 30 ships cannot hold a full offensive even for 12 hours. Then we get help, Nari said. She pulled up a communication panel. We have been inspiring people across the coalition for months. Let us see if any of them are ready to fight for what they believe in. They sent out messages to sympathetic captains in the coalition fleet, to civilian ships that had helped them before, to anyone who believed that 3 million lives mattered more than following orders. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Ships started arriving at their coordinates. Coalition military vessels whose captains were tired of abandoning civilians. Civilian transports armed with whatever weapons they could mount. Even some merchant vessels, their captains determined to help however they could. Within 6 hours, they had over 100 ships. Still not enough to defeat a swarm offensive, but enough to make a stand. The journey to Haven took 4 hours. When they arrived, the swarm was already there. The sky above the planet was dark with hive ships. Thousands of smaller attack craft swarmed around them like insects. It was the largest swarm force Taeyang had ever seen. They are beginning planetary assault, a sensor operator reported. Landing craft hitting the surface in multiple locations. All ships defensive formation, Taeyang ordered. Combat vessels form the outer perimeter. Transports and civilians stay back. Our job is to slow them down and protect the planet. Hold every position as long as possible. The battle began immediately. Swarm fighters poured toward the defensive line. Taeyang's ships met them with everything they had. Plasma fire lit up space. Ships on both sides exploded into flames. The noise over the comms was chaotic. Orders and warnings and screams. Taeyang commanded from his ship, coordinating the defense. Beside him, Nari monitored planetary defense, organizing the ground forces. They had become a team over these months, working together so naturally that words were barely necessary. Swarm breach at Sector 4, someone reported. Send reinforcements, Taeyang ordered. Do not let them through. Sector 7 is collapsing. We need support. Pull back to secondary positions. Make them fight for every meter. The battle raged for 3 hours. Taeyang's fleet held, but barely. They were losing ships. Good people dying to buy time for civilians they would never meet. But they did not break. Every time a position was about to fall, someone else moved to reinforce it. Human ships covering Velrathi vessels, Velrathi fighters protecting human transports, different species working together because it was the only way to survive. On the surface, the fighting was brutal. Swarm creatures poured from landing craft, overwhelming defensive positions. Taeyang made a decision he knew was dangerous. "I am going down there," he told Nari. "The ground forces need coordination." "Then I am coming with you," she said immediately. "Nari, do not argue. You need me and you know it." Doyen can command the fleet. They took a combat shuttle down to the surface. The city below was chaos. Buildings burning, civilians running for shelters, soldiers fighting desperately at every street corner. Taeyang and Nari landed near the worst fighting and immediately joined the battle. Taeyang had new armor now, custom built over the months. It incorporated both human and Velrathi technology, making it stronger and more flexible than standard coalition gear. His weapons were upgraded too, designed to fight the swarm more effectively. But the real weapon was his partnership with Nari. They fought like one being, each covering the other's weaknesses, each enhancing the other's strengths. When he reloaded, she held the line. When she was overwhelmed, his fire drove enemies back. They had trained together for months, learned each other's combat styles, built trust that went deeper than words. Around them, other soldiers saw and learned. Human and Velrathi forces that had never worked together before suddenly understood how powerful cooperation could be. They started coordinating, supporting each other, becoming more than the sum of their parts. "Massive swarm force heading for the civilian shelter complex," a scout reported. "If they break through, thousands will die." "Where?" Taeyang demanded. The scout gave coordinates. It was 10 kilometers away through heavy fighting. They would never make it in time through normal routes. "I can fly us there," Nari said. "If you trust me." Taeyang looked at her wings. They had healed over the months but still bore scars from that first battle. Flying while carrying someone would strain them terribly. "Always," he said. Nari's wings spread wide. She grabbed Taeyang under his arms and launched into the air. Her wings beat powerfully, carrying both of them over the burning city. Taeyang could feel the strain in how she flew, the way her wings trembled with effort. But she did not falter. They reached the shelter complex just as the swarm assault began. Hundreds of creatures pouring toward the shelter entrance where thousands of civilians huddled in fear. Nari dropped Taeyang right in front of the entrance, and together they stood against the tide. It was Crimson Station all over again, but different this time. Last time they had been strangers fighting to survive. Now they were partners fighting to protect. Taeyang's rifle never stopped firing. Nari's claws never stopped moving. They held the entrance, and slowly other soldiers joined them. Humans, Velrathi, other species all standing together. "The coalition fleet just arrived in system." Doyen's voice came through the comm. "They are engaging the swarm main force. We did it. We held long enough." Relief flooded through Taeyang, but the battle was not over. The swarm creatures in front of him did not care about the fleet battle above. They only cared about killing. So he kept fighting. And Nari kept fighting beside him until finally the pressure eased. The creatures began pulling back, retreating to their landing craft as the coalition fleet destroyed their hive ships. When the shooting finally stopped, Taeyang and Nari collapsed against the shelter entrance, exhausted and bleeding but alive. Around them, soldiers cheered. They had held. Against impossible odds, they had saved 3 million people. Coalition troops landed an hour later. The fleet admiral, a stern woman named Admiral Kwan, came personally to the surface. She found Taeyang and Nari in a medical station being treated for their wounds. "Sergeant Taeyang, Operative Nari," the admiral said formally. "You are both under arrest for desertion, theft of military property, and conducting unauthorized military operations." Taeyang looked at her calmly. "Are you really going to arrest the people who just saved 3 million lives that you abandoned?" "I am following regulations," the admiral said, but her voice lacked conviction. "Then your regulations are wrong," Nari said. She stood despite her injuries, her wings spreading to their full impressive span. "We did what you would not. We saved people you left to die. If that is a crime, then every soldier here is guilty too." She gestured to the chamber around them. It was full of soldiers, human and Velrathi and others, all looking at the admiral. Behind the admiral, more soldiers crowded in. They had heard what was happening. They all knew Taeyang and Nari's story. Many of them had been inspired by it. Admiral, a voice called from the crowd. It was Captain Bora, still in her damaged combat gear. Before you arrest them, there is something you should know. We all volunteered to be here. Every ship that fought today came because we believed in what they are doing. If you arrest them, you arrest all of us.